So over the last few years, I've built up a private equity fund that was buying a lot of internet businesses. We're now exiting out of that fund, and I spent a lot of time in those last couple of years talking about this concept of buying internet business. I think it was a fairly new thing. It's pretty cool that now it's really caught on. I want to start to expand it and talk about the other types of assets that I'm investing in, as well as that should be in your portfolio. I think that, like with anything, there's some really great, amazing benefits that come along with buying and selling internet businesses, offline businesses. In every deal that you do, you should understand where are the valuable assets. And I think that's something that people are missing as they're doing deals. And it's really important for those of you who check out the videos that are building in your own kind of micro private equity fund, and you're planning on having a diversified portfolio. So when it comes to building your fund, there's this hierarchy of assets that you want to have in your personal portfolio as well as in your fund portfolio. So let's go all the way back to a time before the internet, before software or any of that. When you're selling a business, a lot of what people did was look at the assets of that business that were going to be included. If you're selling a railroad, they would look at, how many trains do you have? What's all the land that you bought, the tracks, all this stuff. And that's how they would add up what the company was worth. And then you would kind of back into what the multiple would end up being, because somebody was going to buy those assets because they're saying this is what this is worth, and this is how much money we're making, and it wasn't very correlated. If you were selling $1 billion in assets and you're only making $10 million, like, hey, what I'm really selling you is the assets. And you can make what you want off of those assets and get sometimes a decent return, sometimes a horrific return. But one day you're going to be able to sell those assets again to somebody else. The land may appreciate. Hopefully you've kept up with maintenance on the train. You're going to be able to sell all of that at some point. So that's where we come from as an industry of buying and selling businesses. Now, over time, people realize all I really care about, all I really want is the cash flow. And this hierarchy represents that process. And the truth is there's value in all of it. Now, the really cool thing is when you start at the top of the hierarchy, you are buying things with hard assets, with real assets that you're going to be able to eventually sell. Now, for a lot of the deals that we're doing, the cool thing is, even though we're buying assets today, and this is the magical thing about micro private equity when it comes to offline businesses specifically, is that you're really buying something at a multiple. Typical offline deals are going at a 2 multiple right now. And because we've kind of made this shift from understanding that I'm buying some assets to the only thing I care about is cash flow, the assets are typically included. When I think about the Subway deal that we did years and years ago, we bought there was a building that was included. There was all of the Subway restaurant, by the way, not like a Subway train or anything like that. But when you look at that deal, there was a building, there was all this stuff that was included in that business, and we still got the business at a lower than 3 multiple. So we were buying the cash flow at 2.5, which is amazing. But the building was worth the equal amount that we paid. So it's like we got the business for free. And those are the kind of deals that you can do when you're dealing in those real asset spaces, when you're in the kind of micro space as well. When you get into the 10 million plus deals, that it becomes a lot more expensive. You're not going to get a deal that's a 2-3 multiple. They're going to want their assets. They're going to want all this. And that's one of the reasons that those deals will sell at an 8, 9, 10 multiple, and people are happy to do those deals. So the very top level is dealing with deals that have a real asset base that you're buying. And if you can, I've talked about the tennis salon deals that I bought. Same thing there, where literally the assets in the business, and in one case, I was able to sell the assets in the business for more than what I bought the business for, because I was buying the business at a 2 multiple, and I had a buyer for the assets in the business that was willing to pay me more because they needed those assets in the other salons. So those are some examples when we're talking about this whole buying something that has a real asset attached to it. The things that I consider within that, some of the first one would be real estate. The next level would be assets that are having to do with the business. If there's machinery or anything like that, with those two asset classes, you're going to be able to sell those at a really great price. For manufacturing machinery, there's always a market to be able to resell those things. Now let's move to a next level. What I would consider as being most like second most valuable and easy to sell. Now, when I'm talking about most valuable, it's not the price. It's outside of the income for this product. What's the market like? I'm talking about real estate. The building for the subway, we're able to sell that years later was separate from the business, and then sell the business separately. So if you can make a deal where you're getting an asset like that, you're going to be able to sell it separately. Machinery, you don't need that business to work in order for you to be able to cash out that. So if you can get that free in a deal, that's literally free money that's sitting in that deal. Now, the third one would be financial assets. Now, I've started to talk a little bit about this because I've realized, in doing deal making, not really purposefully, but over the last 10 years, I've started to build up these financial assets as a result of deal making. All of this stuff can be a result of deal making. The tennis salons I made money off of, the tanning beds I made money off of in that salon deal, that was just a result of me deal making. When you sell the building from the subway, it wasn't that I was doing real estate, it was just that was a bonus to me doing a good deal. So financial assets is this other unique thing that people don't pay attention to and value when they're looking for deals. You should be targeting the deals that have these assets in them. And one of those assets are financial assets. In some cases, the most normal that you're going to see is accounts receivables that have a real value. One of the businesses that I bought a while back was a factoring business. I bought the business mainly because I was going to be able to see businesses that may want to sell, they may be in financial trouble. Factoring is just a type of financing that you do when people need money. It's pretty expensive. But you're buying their invoices essentially. You're like, okay, people owe you money. I'm going to give you the money up front, and then I'll wait for them to pay me instead. Is the general breakdown. But that is an asset in that business. Now, once I understood that business, anytime a business had some kind of accounts receivable, I understood, oh, wow, like I can use that to finance this business because I know other factors I can go to, sell those receivables, get the cash up front, and use that as a down payment on the business. So that's just one example of understanding what's valuable in the business. Now, the other thing is that you may have opportunities to finance deals that you're selling, or start to just invest in loans, and that's one of the things that I think is one of the biggest opportunities right now as banks start to kind of close up what they're lending. There's just a huge opportunity to do private equity lending. And, the same thing, you're looking at the assets in that business. How can I loan against this? There's machinery. When you understand these things, it creates this new opportunity for you to be able to grow your income. And, I was just talking to a guy. I'm going to release this video maybe even today or tomorrow. But he went from zero to generating $4,000 a month within 6 weeks without using any of his own cash. And it was through this private equity lending strategy. So that's a big opportunity for folks that want to build a totally separate business, and it's a kind of a side door to being able to enter the private equity space. So we'll be talking more about that. But the third level is, what are the financial assets in the business? And when you're looking at your portfolio, as we go through these and talk about these remaining two, what you're thinking about is, how do I get all of these? How do I do deals where I get some real estate, because that's giving me real diversification? How do I do deals where I'm getting, machinery, inventory, things that I can sell in another way that really just comes with the deal, because I'm going to do a deal anyway. I want to buy business that's going to get me a 2 multiple. I might as well get some real estate with it. I might as well get some machinery with it. I might as well have these assets, because when, as they say, crap hits the fan, you want this diversification. The third one is, you want financial assets. What are the financial assets that you can take advantage of when you're doing a deal, and get some of those and add those to your portfolio? That gives you another level of protection. When we get into some of the internet deals, one of the things that I'm a fan of, and we just did a deal like this when I did a Shark Tank event in Denver just a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things that was really neat was, the person that I invested in had a patent. And this patent, it's very, very valuable. She's done some deals with some very big name brands in the U.S. And, it's a really valuable patent. So I can now do a deal with her and get a lien against that patent. So the patent is protecting my investment, and even though it's a financial investment. So in my portfolio, it's basically kind of a loan with some equity. It's a neat structure, but I've got a lien against this patent. So if anything goes wrong with that, I get to add a patent to my portfolio. So that would be a really strong thing at that level. Then you get into brand and those kinds of things. But I would consider crypto in kind of this fourth level space, just because it's the market for it changes so much. It goes up and down, and it's tough to say what it's going to be worth at any given point. What I'm looking at, when the three that are above it is, with real estate, there's very small ups and downs. With machinery, there's always a ready market. If you have a loan note that is paying, that is going to be valuable. There are plenty of buyers that are always going to want to buy that, and it's very standard. When you get into these other things, it's just plain old more risky. In this fourth level, when you're dealing with a patent, you got to find the right person. There's not just a ready market where you go to like a real estate agent, like you would with real estate, and say, "Hey, I got this patent. I want to sell it. Put it on the market, and this is the price I want based on the comps." That it just doesn't work that way. Crypto, the same thing. You don't know tomorrow what it's really going to be worth. Is it valuable? Yes, there is value there. Now, the interesting thing is, and it's funny that I put it fifth, because I think a lot of people will take it as surprise. But when it comes to the 90% of internet deals, this would be a fifth level asset, because all you're buying is cash flow. When we're talking about these other things, it's like, oh, I'm buying cash flow, but I get the bonus of real estate. Oh, I'm buying cash flow, but I get the bonus of some tanning salons. Oh, I'm buying cash flow, but I get the benefit of having a patent backing it. It's like, all I'm doing is buying something, but I've got a real asset. Now, when you get into this fifth level, what you're dealing with is just buying cash flow. So when you have a e-commerce business, when you have a SaaS business, the market that we're in right now, this is a big side note, but one of the reasons that we're fighting this trade war with China is that we've dealt with people, taking our movies and intellectual property all over the world. It's not just China, it's Russia. It's just, I travel all over the world. People are steal those things, steal the brands, whatever, for years. What's happening now is that it is easier than ever to copy huge businesses and take IP, and this isn't just in the tech arena. Some of the most valuable assets now when it comes to manufacturing could be a internally produced piece of software that increases efficiency by 10%. And if somebody can come in and take that IP, that isn't something that needs to be invested in. Back in the day, if somebody wanted to build that railroad station, if somebody wanted to create or wants to build a subway, they've got to spend some money to do that and to have that value. Today, if you've got a internet business, what you're buying is the cash flow. When that cash flow goes away, there's very little there to sell, and that's why within that space, the due diligence is so crucial. Having a diversified portfolio is so crucial. One of our deals just the other day, last week, we got a letter from Amazon saying, "Hey, we don't like this thing on your website. If you don't change it, we're going to cancel your account." Well, that is how that business makes money. If Amazon cancels it, it literally goes to zero, and that business becomes worthless. If you own an offline business and somebody's like, "Oh, we're going to switch this traffic to here," your business doesn't just go to zero. That is the very big difference in these types of assets is, when you're buying a cash flow asset and there's not value. And it's really the same for a SaaS business. There's no SaaS business, no matter how amazing the software is, if it's not making money. We did a deal on a SaaS business that literally it is the same exact software of a business that recently raised $10 million in Silicon Valley. We bought that business for $100,000. And it is the same, I'm looking at the functionality and I'm like, wait a minute, so ours does the exact same? Like, what are we missing that they do? And it's like nothing. But the point is, when we bought that business, that we bought it based on a 3 multiple. So if it had a 0 multiple, that business has 0 value. So you want to make sure that you've got a truly diversified portfolio. And when you're in those, the lower you get in those 5, when you're buying a business and you're getting a free piece of real estate, hey, go all in on that. But as you get down those 5 levels and you get to the lowest levels, you have to be as diversified as possible. And you have to plan on it being super risky because you're dealing in something that has no backing. There's nothing else to sell. One of my favorite things that gets right in between is the financial assets, which, it allows you to have some of those benefits, being able to travel around, not have have a little bit of a scalability. When I release Surex's video, you'll see like he was able to scale that private equity lending model very, very quickly because you're not having to deal in hard assets and that kind of thing. So that gets right in between. But the lower you go in those 5, it's really important that you have diversification. Because those assets are pretty much the easiest to just go to zero and lose your money. So hopefully that was valuable for you guys. I wanted to point that out. More things coming down the pipe. Some very interesting deals. Like I said, we're selling a lot of deals out of the fund right now. So if you're in the market to buy an internet business, most of these deals are deals that I would like to buy. Because I have a conflict of interest as a manager, I'm not able to buy them. So would love to give you guys the opportunity. So reach out if you're interested in that. Thanks so much for checking out the video.